Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. We are going to the seventh and final church. That is the Church of Laodicea. And I want to read Revelation 3:14. And to the angel of the church of Laodiceans write, these things says the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of creation of God. I know your works, that you're neither cold nor hot. I wish you were cold or hot. So then, because you're lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth. I want to focus on the word Laodicea and what that means. I talked about that a couple weekends ago at church, and a great message on that. It was the last message inside of Know God. And so if you missed that, I highly encourage you to go back and watch that, because the whole message really is on this church and how we could avoid becoming that church or that individual that Jesus is correcting. But I want to focus on the word Laodicea. Lao is where we get the English word laity, which means people, and diocese, where we get the word rule. So Laodicea is a church that's ruled by the people. Now, this is important because if you're a CEO, the boss, or the pastor, we're to be led by the Lord and driven by vision. And if we aren't careful, the natural tendency is to be led by the people and to let people hijack our vision. Now, I believe in being a collaborative leader. I am all about people's feedback, people's opinions. I'm very collaborative with my executive team, with my staff. I'm all about Sam Walton, push responsibility down, pull ideas up, all about that. And so I'm not the leader who's just always pulling the pastor card. Well, I'm the pastor, we're going to do this. I'm the pastor, we're going to do this. So I'm very collaborative. Now, there is a time, though, that I'll go, hey, thank you for your opinion. It's been heard. I've considered it. Now this is what we're going to do. Can you be in agreement with that? And so we make a lot of great decisions, better as a team. But at the end of the day, the buck has to stop with me. And so I have to be able to go, hey, that's great, but here's what I feel God's saying. That's great, but according to the vision, or according to this value, this is what we're ultimately going to do. When I started Element Church, I had a set of values and value statements, value words, and I would spend time teaching those. In fact, I took 6 months teaching our core launch team every one of those values. Every weekend service where we were practicing and getting ready to go public with church, I would literally teach down those values. I did that for 6 months to ingrain that into our culture. And I think that's partly why our launch was so successful, was our DNA, our culture was ingrained, our values was ingrained from us. Well, as our church began to grow, as I've been able to hire staff, people came on, people would kind of begin to go, well, hey, what about this? And I would get talked out of a value kind of one at a time. And then, hey, could we repackage the values this way? And I would, okay, because, I listen to feedback. All right. Well, after like 10 years, I wake up one day and realize, hey, I don't even know these value statements. These aren't me. These are somebody else on my team came up with this. This isn't my heart. This isn't my conviction. They're not bad, but it's not me. It's not Element. And so I went back to the team and just go, guys, I just don't feel these values are ours. And so fortunately, one of my great staff members, Leo Crosby, my VP, he goes, hey, well, Pastor, what's in your heart? You know what? Let's just go back and let's get out these whiteboards and you just kind of barf out here what is in your heart, and let's just recraft it. Let's make sure that this is who we are supposed to be, and let's get back into your heart. So I did that, and I just started, and we took several afternoons where they just listened to me, and I would talk, and so what was so funny is I put all these things out there on the board, it literally came back to the same values I had. I couldn't get away from them. Why? Because they were in our heart, and it's part of what God called us to be and what makes Element. It's part of our secret sauce, so to speak. Now, we were able to refine a couple of them and make, I think, the wording even better. But the values that I have today sitting up here on my wall in my office on these really nice looking acrylic boards. It's real artistic. Everyone, laugh, excellence, membership, equip, next, truth, stewardship, the acronym of the word element. Like all those were in me from the very beginning. It hasn't changed. They're more articulate now, but it hasn't changed. And so maybe as you are a leader, CEO, maybe you've allowed others to hijack your vision. Maybe you've allowed others to hijack your values, or something that you should be doing that you're not, or now you're doing something you shouldn't be because you just kind of let others hijack it. And so if that's you, just a question, is it time to maybe take some of that back? Is it time to maybe go back to your team and go, hey, want to apologize? I've let us get off course on some things. I think it's time that we go ahead and fix that. And here's where we're going. Here's the tweak. Here's the course correction that I think we need to make. And so we believe in people. We believe in team. But at the end of the day, there's still a coach. At the end of the day, there's still a leader. At the end of the day, the church of the Laodicean, the message was written to the pastor, the leader, and God's holding you, the leader, accountable for your organization. God holds the pastor accountable for that church. And so at the end of the day, don't let anybody hijack the vision that Jesus gave you for your church or for your organization. See you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at eriklawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.